Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining with us today on the second lecture of STEMS 2021. I am honored to introduce Professor R. Ramanujam from Institute of Mathematical Sciences, Chennai. Let me give a brief introduction about him. I am just a second. Yeah. So I am honored to introduce Professor Ramanujam with you. So he completed his PhD from Tata Institute of Fundamental Research, Mumbai, and he completed his postdoc from City University, New York. He is currently Professor of Theoretical Computer Sciences at Institute of Mathematical Sciences, Chennai. His current research interests are mainly of automated theory, mathematical logic, game theory, and security theory. He is also a recipient of Indira Gandhi Award for Popularization in Science. So before handing over it to Professor Ramanujam, I will just give you a couple of quick instructions. Please use a chat box for your questions. The host and co-hosts will look at the chats continuously, and they will post the questions to Professor at appropriate times. And if you want to ask some doubts to the Professor, then just tell us, and then you can continue to ask your doubt. So today, Professor will deliver a lecture on the very interesting topic on game theory, and like the title of the talk is "Can every game be won by someone?" Hope you all enjoy it, Professor.
Thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir, we can hear you.
Okay. So, like I was just telling Anirudh, it'll be nice if you can turn videos on. I can at least see you. I can see who I'm talking to. Otherwise, it's like talking to a wall here. So, at least for a while, if you can turn your videos on, I'd like to see. Yeah, we can't have a round of introductions, unfortunately. At least, I'll know who I'm talking to. It's a pleasure for me to be here at the Tessellate STEM session. I've been there before, and I must say it's a pleasure to be with you all today. And I really enjoy this initiative that CMI takes up, and the CMI students have been doing this for some time. It's a wonderful program. And I mean, these kind of math engagements are very important, and I don't know how many of you have a lot of opportunities for engaging in mathematical discussions, tournaments, math festivals, all these, and I'm very happy to see you all. Now, as Amit was just saying, this, about asking questions, that you put it in the chat box, that's perfectly fine. But I also want to ask you some questions, and when I do, you can just unmute and talk. And if it becomes too much of a thing with, noisy and everybody talking at the same time, then we'll tell them. But do try and talk. The point is to interact, and I don't have a lecture with a beginning, a middle, and an end, and that you must follow very rigidly, right? It's okay to interrupt. It's okay. I don't have any particular syllabus to cover. I just want to talk some ideas to you, and I hope you will engage with it. Now, it's thanks for the people who have shown me yourselves through your videos. It's a pleasure to see you. Okay, I'll come back after a little while. So if you want, you can turn off videos and be comfortable. You can see them turn off now. So let me start sharing screen. And here is the topic. Okay. Okay. First, let me thank Amit and the CMI team for inviting me. As I said, here is the title of the talk. Can every game be won by someone? And I'm really talking about games where you win or lose. This is the kind of game that we play, or draw. The classic game that we think of in such contexts is chess. Are the slides changing? Do you see Anand now?
Yes,
No,
sir.
sir.
No, sir.
Slides are not changing, right? This
No,
is
sir.
the usual. Okay. Yeah, what about now?
Yeah,
Yes,
better.
sir.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, it's okay.
Yes, sir, we can see, sir.
Yeah. So the classic game is chess. You see the great Viswanathan Anand trying to play. You have the chessboard, you're sitting there. The question is, how do you play? So this is, if you want to think of a game, here is a game. Here is another game. Well, we don't think of this as a two-person game, but look at this situation where what is going on here? Yeah, this is why I said I want somebody to talk.
Penalty,
Yeah, what's the situation here?
penalty shootout, sir.
Penalty shootout. Yeah. Oh, well, I've written it on top as well, right? So the penalty shootout, you can think of it as a two-person game. It's also a two-person game now. It's not a team game. There is a striker and there is a goalkeeper. There are only two people there. And the question is, what does the striker do? And how do you play? If you are the goalkeeper, where should you expect the ball to come? Which direction? And of course, you see that the two strikers taking charge of Messi and Ronaldo. And I don't think you can see the goalkeeper there right now, but yeah. Okay, here, now it's another game. So this is Roger Federer. I was trying to look for one which has both Federer and Nadal, but I couldn't find appropriate images that were free to use. But yeah, that's another two-player game, right? You two players, and you serve, you return. The person serving, how do I serve? The person returning, how should I expect the serve to come and how should I return? Okay? So, what's common between these games? Well, we can think of them as all two-person games, and they're essentially win-lose games. Now, chess is a very complicated game. It's not one move; it's move after move after move, all of it amounting to one game. Now, in the case of the penalty shootout, you can think of it as just a one-shot game, right? Now, the one-shot game, again, I'm not seeing anybody. I'm just talking to myself. Can I have a few videos on at least, please? I'd just like to talk to some people. Is there anybody interested in responding? Yeah, otherwise I'll ask Amik and Anirudh at least to be on.
Yes, my video
Yes,
is
sir.
on.
We have kept
Yeah,
our videos
I
on.
want to see some people. Otherwise I'm just looking at the screen and talking to myself, which this is not much fun. Yeah, thank you. Anybody else? I see my Zoom allows 5 persons to be seen. So I can see a few at least. Yeah, oh, this is great. Yeah, thank you. Okay, so these are essentially two-person games. And in the case of chess, there is a draw as well, right? And in the penalty shootout, it's just one move, right? It's just one strike, that's all. And in the case of tennis, again, you can think of it as a long game, but it's actually composed of one-shot games. Well, when you return, it goes on. You can say, but the serve and the return, you can think of it as a one-shot. Yeah. Now, there's an important difference. There is no chance element in chess. the other two have chance. In chess, there is no randomness involved. You move, the other person responds. This is what happens. Now, chess is only about mental ability. The other two involve some physical ability as well, right, to execute plans. In the case of the striker, it's not simply a matter of, you're making the right decision. You should be able to execute it, right? If I want to shoot it into that corner and I'm not very good, right, I may just shoot wide off. Right? Also, remember there is tremendous tension. So it's a mental game, it's a physical game. And of course, the people that I was showing you are, people like Messi and have tremendous control. So you almost think that there is not an issue. I mean, these are people who, if they make up their mind, they can do it. But of course, it's never the same. Main question, how do I play? Right. And the thing is there a mathematical answer to this? I mean, question is, can one mathematize such things at all? If you were to try to mathematize something like this, how would you do? And how effective is the mathematics? One must ask that as well. Well, this is really the subject matter of game theory. And yeah, somebody has raised. Yeah, please ask. Whoever is raised his or her hand and unmute and ask. It just says Redmi, so there is no name there. Aditya. Okay. He's coming yet. Now, these are games of strategy, and the notion of strategy is central to game. What's a strategy? A strategy is basically a plan. Formally, mathematically, I think of it as a map from a player's game positions to the moves available at that position, right? So think of it in the case of chess, it's crystal clear. What's a game position? How the board looks, right? Initially, you know exactly how the board looks, but at any game position, the board is given to you, and the configuration of the board is the position. And if it's your turn to move, strategy will tell you if this is the game board position, and you're white and it's white's turn to move. Well, there are so many possible moves. Strategy will say pick this one. So that's a plan. So it's a description. A strategy is a description of all possible, in whatever game situations you are in, it will tell you what to do, right? That is the answer to the how shall I play question. Is that clear? Now, what about the case of the penalty shootout? Well, you position yourself, right? Where do you position yourself facing the goal? Well, you can place yourself somewhere to the right, somewhere to the center, somewhere to the left. It's really not so much positioning yourself as what you shoot towards. You shoot towards the right of the goal, center of the goal, to the left of it. Now, of course, it's a continuum. So when I say right center, I'm really taking a simplification. Right? Similarly, the goalkeeper, who is expecting the striker to shoot, can anticipate the ball to come to the left of the goal, to the center of the goal, or to the right of the goal, and take a stance. Now, saying there are only three possibilities is tremendous oversimplification. But my point is, there is in fact, I could even map it to the real interval 0, 1 and say, or -1 to 1 and say, whatever. But there are some very definite positions, and what are the moves available for you in that position, right? For the goalkeeper, the move is, should I fall to the left? Should I fall to the right? Or just plonk in the center and extend my hand? In the case of the striker, Of course, do you shoot in which direction do you shoot? Right? Strategy will tell you if this is the position, this is what you should do. Strategy doesn't say anything about the outcome, right? Strategy is simply a plan. So in the case of chess, it's much more clear. Well, if this is the position, this is what I should do. A winning strategy is one such that if you follow it, no matter what the other player does, you are assured of it. Remember, strategy is a plan. I come with a plan, you come with a plan, right? Now, when do I say my plan is winning? Well, no matter what you do, right? If I follow the strategy, I'm guaranteed to win. Such a strategy is what you would call a winning strategy. Now the question is, do winning strategies exist for chess? Chess is, remember there is no chance, nothing involved. The set of positions is clear. How many possible game positions are there in chess? Now you should tell me. How many possible game positions can you have in chess? Give me some, is it an infinite? Are there infinitely many possible game boards in chess? I see some head shaking, I'm happy. Yeah, of course not. It's finite, right? There are only finitely many things. How many pieces are there in chess? A chess is an 8x8 board, right? Okay. Now,
32.
32 pieces, sir.
32 pieces are there. Give me some crude bound of how many positions are there.
64 choose 32.
Very good, okay. Okay. And not all are good because you remember that, yeah, okay. So, okay. That's a very, very large number. But let's not be afraid of large numbers. Who cares? It's a finite set. There are finitely many positions. That's all. Right? Yeah. Aditya?
I'm not sure there can be 32 to 64 positions or vice versa because the pawns cannot be on the beginning of their own file. So there will be less positions.
Yeah,
and
definitely.
the dark square bishop cannot be on light squares, etc.
Exactly. Good. I'm very happy. Yeah. So, but let's not do it now. But afterwards, Aditya, sit and think about how large is the set of game positions, right, in chess. It's a fun exercise. Remember, it's a single number, right? It's one number. There is no ambiguity to this. And you should be able to calculate what that number is with some bit of effort. Okay. Now, let's move on. My point is, so strategies are, in the case of chess, a strategy is mapped from a finite set. This is very important, right? Set of game positions is fine. 2 moves. How many moves? Well, at any point of time, your white can have at most 32 moves, right? Yeah. 16 moves. That's all you have. And it's going to be always less. Right? And Pranay Agarwal is telling me it's going to be a number of ways. Yeah, it is. But the point is that now a strategy for chess is a map from a finite set to a finite set. Is that clear? The set of possible positions, call it M, and the set of moves possible is K. How many functions can you have from an M element set to a K element set? Anybody? How many functions can you have from a 3 element set to a 2 element set? K power n, Prasanna. Thank you. Yeah. So, again, that's a finite number. Huh? Yeah. Ask a CMI student to sit and list all those functions. Right? Why not? Why not? So, you know all the possible strategies potentially. Now, what's the problem? There must be a winning strategy among these, right? If it exists, I'm asking, does there exist a winning strategy for chess for player white. Now, is it possible for both white and black to have a winning strategy? I see some heads going like this and some heads going, yeah? What do you think? Is it possible? Okay. Bibu Prasad. Yeah, you're shaking very vigorously. So can you tell me why you think it's not possible?
No, because you just told that the winning strategy is the one that, in which we are assured to win, and both the...
Yes, that's the logician. Thank you. Yeah, you will make a good logician. You have to just apply the rule. My definition says winning strategy means what? No matter what the other person does, I am assured of a win, right? If white has a winning strategy, no matter what black does, white should win. If both white and black have winning strategy, then black will play the winning strategy, and no matter what white does, black should win. Both black and white cannot win at the same time, right? That is the definition of a win or a lose, right? If white wins, black loses. I'm not talking about a draw. A winning strategy is going to guarantee a win form. So it is not possible for both black and white to have a winning strategy. Is that clear? So that's not my question. My question is, do either one of them have a winning strategy? Maybe. So remember, the set of possible strategies for black is a finite set. The set of possible strategies for white is a finite set. Now I'm asking, among these two finite sets, right, is there a winning strategy or not? And this question is a mathematical question. Is it a well-formulated mathematical question? Do you agree with me? Right? There is no ambiguity in this. Right? There is no player skill involved. Right? The moment you have a strategy will tell you what to play. The moment I fix a strategy for, let me call it sigma, for white, and a strategy tau for black, the play is unique. Is it clear? Because white starts, sigma will tell what white should do. That's a new position. Tau will tell what black should do. Now we are back to white, sigma will tell. Just go on applying the functions, applying the maths, and you will get a sequence of moves. If either of them is a winning strategy that you began with, one of them will win. We have no idea, of course. Okay? So my question to you all is, does one of them, so remember the title of the talk, is it the case that can one person win in any game? That is the question that I started with. Yes, Nidhi, what do you think? Do you think that one of them has a winning strategy? Yeah, you can unmute and tell me. I would like a vote now. So the question is, does one of the two players in chess have a winning strategy? Yeah, you can show your hands. So here, all those who think yes, put up your hand. You see at least some faces, so I should be able to see some.
So I have a question.
Oh, Megha is here. Yeah, Megha, what do you think? Does one of the players have a winning strategy? Is your
Can
vote
you
for yes?
please repeat the question, sir?
The question is, in chess, do one of the two players have a winning strategy? I guarantee. So I have asked for a show of hands for yes.
I think so.
Sir, but are you talking about the starting of the game, like the fastest move?
Starting, sorry?
Sir, are you talking about the starting of the game, the first move, from the first move does he has a winning
of course.
strategy?
Because remember, by definition, a strategy is a map from all positions, right? Including the initial position. So of course. Yes,
I have a
Aditya?
doubt. Yeah, so can the winning strategy vary from what the opponent plays? For example,
No. Remember, winning strategy tells me, strategy tells me, by definition, if this is the game position and it's my turn to move, what should I do? Right? It's a map from all positions to moves enabled at the position. It will tell me a move that I play. So, fix a strategy sigma for white. Fix a strategy tau for black. Now, what will happen? Sigma, right in the first game position that we all know, white starts, right? Sigma will tell what white should do, right? So white will make that move. Then you get a new position. Tau will tell what black should do, right? Because it's a position for black. Tau is a strategy for black. It will tell. And you just keep applying sigma and tau alternately, and the game will go on. Now the game goes on. Now, by the way, can the game go on forever in chess?
Sir, what question?
Actually, you can, because I can keep moving my king back and forth, and you can keep, but that's disallowed in tournaments. The game board cannot position for more than 3 times. The moment the board position repeats 3 times, it's gone, right? So therefore,
both sides.
Certain moves are disallowed to. So the thing cannot go on forever. That's clear. Now the question is, if you keep applying sigma and tau alternately, it's going to result in some situation. Now, if it's one of them is a winning strategy, of course that person will. We know that both cannot be winning strategy. So my question, once again, okay, one last time. So, does one of the players have a winning strategy in chess? So now I want a show of hands for no. No. There are several no's on chat. I want a hand. How many voting for no? Hands, please. Okay. I'm not going to, thank you. So I see that the house is divided, but from the number of no's I see on chat, I think democratically no wins, right? And but of course in mathematics.
Sir, I had a doubt. Are you
Yes.
telling that we use the same winning strategies again and again for infinite games and we will still win?
There is no infinite games here, right? Remember that chess is a finite game. Once it starts, if the moves go on, game positions cannot repeat, and there are only finitely many game positions possible. So the duration of the game is finite. Okay, so it's not infinite. And
yeah. Okay.
So
that's one thing. But if suppose I play 3 games, 3 different games. I play one game.
3 different games.
I have 1 game with A. I have 3 games scheduled. I have 1 game with A, 1 game with B.
Wait. We can play many games in parallel. We can come to that later. This is a difficult enough problem, Nishi. Let's do 1 game at a time and solve these questions. There is enough. What you say is extremely interesting. We'll take it up. But you are talking about a harder problem, right? And,
so basically, the winning strategy should not depend on what the opponent plays after your move. Whatever
absolutely.
the opponent plays, your next move should be what you decided.
Okay. So now that I have seen that, as I said, democratically, I've seen that no is the leading candidate right now. Only a few people think that one of the players has a winning strategy. And Siddharth Chakravarti says, I don't know the answer because I have no logic to prove my yes or no. That's true, but you should make conjectures. It's very important to make conjectures and prepare to be wrong in your conjecture, right? One of the great joys of doing mathematics is being proved wrong, right? It's not about being proved right because you learn so much either way, so it's no problem. Sometimes it's a wild guess, but very often you have some vague idea, and the vague idea is not bad at all. Okay, so now let me get back to sharing screen. And so I want to return to this question, but after a little more. Now, I'm going to do a little bit of formalization, not a great deal. One moment. Yeah. Do you see the next slide? Yeah. Is the slide changing?
Yes, a convex game of life.
Yeah, okay, very good. Because sometimes my laptop, this is a problem. So I'm sorry. Yeah. Okay, so have you heard of a game with no players at all? And this is a very interesting game. It's a game without players. What you've got is a square grid of cells. And every cell, it's a square grid like in the chessboard. Right? So when you take any cell, you have a cell to the right, to the left, above, below, and diagonally across. There are 8 neighbors. And the idea is that a cell is alive or dead at any time. Now, you have time instants. So initially, when you start t equal to 0, there is some configuration given to you. Some cells are alive, some cells are dead. What happens at the next instant? Now, the rules are extremely simple. There are really 2 rules, exactly 2. First rule says, if you're a dead cell, and if you've got 3 live neighbors, then you become alive in the next. And a live cell with either 2 or 3 live neighbors remains alive. What happens if a dead cell has, no live cells or only 1 live cell? It dies of loneliness. If a live cell has only 1 live cell as a neighbor, it dies of loneliness. If it has 2 or 3 neighbors, it remains alive. This is the idea. And if it is more than 3 live cells, it dies of overcrowding. So basically, exactly 3 live neighbors, you become alive. 2 or 3 live neighbors, you remain alive. Otherwise, stay dead. Now, the question that you can ask, in the case of the 2-player game, what was the question we were asking? Who's going to win? Who has a strategy to win? Right? The main point is that all games have this problem. There is some initial configuration, and there are some rules. People play by the rules, and we want to know what will happen. Right? Who will Messi make the penalty shootout? Right? Who wins? We ask. Here, there is no win-loss, but we really want to know whether if I start with some initial configuration and apply the rules, right? There's nobody to play by the rules. It will automatically keep going on, right? And the question we ask is, can I predict whether an initial configuration will lead to all cells dying eventually, or grow forever, or form a stable population? Will it keep oscillating? These are very interesting questions to ask. And I've just written this. Don't worry if you don't understand it. In fact, there is no algorithm, a beautiful theorem which says that there is no algorithm to actually determine that this thing will, starting from an initial configuration, I just give you an initial configuration, it goes on. Will it go on forever, or will it die off eventually? We can't determine. It's not that I'm saying, we are not clever enough to find algorithms. I'm saying no algorithm exists. Right. So, basically, if we think of winning as being able to predict, there is really no way of determining whether we can win. Right? So, I think it's reasonable to think of the 2-player game being probably harder, right? And maybe the no crowd has a very good reason for saying no. So let's go on. Now, here is a game from a film. This game is, there is a film called Last Year at Marine Park by Alain René, French film. A beautiful film in the 1960s. There is a character who's always trying to persuade another player to play a card game. What he does is he arranges cards in rows of one card, then 3 cards, then 5 cards, 7 cards. And what they do is to take turns, right? Now, what do? You pick, supposing it's your turn to move, okay? You pick any of the rows and take any number of cards, but you can only take from that row. For instance, you have picked the third row, there are 5 cards there. You can pick all the 5 cards, or you can pick 4, or you can pick 3, or 2, or 1. You can't say 0. You have to reduce the number of cards on that. Just take them. Then it's your turn. You play. You pick some row, remove some number of cards. Then it's my turn. We keep on doing until whoever takes the last card loses. Right? Well, actually, this is the convention in the film. You can choose whichever convention. Now, the character M is always polite and lets the others start. And the other one always loses in the film. And the film is really a lot of fun. It goes into movie things and so on. But now, this kind of games are again two-person games, like chess, board games. These are what are called NIM games. NIM, by the way, a lot of nonsense on internet saying NIM is a Chinese game. It's not actually. It comes from the German word Niemen, analyzed in 1904 by Buffon of Harvard University. Niemen means to take. So it's about taking things from things. The general version of NIM is this. There are 2 players, let's call them 1 and 2. They move alternately, like chess. And instead of cards, you can say there are piles of counters. There are M piles of counters. Now, when a player moves, what does she do? She picks a pile and removes some non-zero many counters from that pile. And when a player cannot move, he loses. That means everything is empty, right? So the way I've set it up, in games typically, whoever is the last player to move wins, because after that, the other person has no chance of now, what are the ingredients of the game? How do you mathematize these things? Right? Now, there are 3 main ingredients for every game. There is a set of players. Let's not worry about the game of life. Now, it's not a game for us. There are at least 2 players, and we are only worrying about 2 players now. In general, there are some n players. And the rules of the game that specify at any game position whose turn it is to move, what moves are applicable, and the resulting new game position after any move. This is what the rules say. And then there are outcomes, which are winning conditions, that specify at which positions the game is over, and perhaps depending on the course of play, it will tell you the outcome at the 2 wins. Right? Yeah. Now, you can represent this mathematically. How do you represent the rules of the game? There is a simple representation. We call it a game arena. You can think of it as a finite graph. I'm only interested in finite games for the moment. Vertices denote game positions. Edges correspond to moves. So if you are at a position, if you are at a node, an edge takes you to a different node. So this is a directed graph. And each vertex is labeled by the player whose turn it is to move. Right? Because if you are in a game position like in chess or in NIM, it tells you who's to move. So that is the label at that. And note that this is just the rules of the game. There are no winning conditions. So a game, you add that as well. So what's a game? Game tree. Don't worry if you don't understand the terminology. I'm just being formal about it. What I'm saying is the tree unfolding of the graph. That is, if you take the graph, so what you do is take some initial position, right? And so you call that the root of the tree, and then the root is the initial game position. Now the edges will tell you what are all the possible moves, right? Those are the branches. which lead to children nodes, which are the new positions. Again, apply the edges that are there. So this is called the unfolding. That will give you a tree. It's an inverted tree, how mathematicians do. The root is put on top, that's the initial game position, and then you say how. And the nodes correspond to paths in the arena from the initial position. And a leaf node is one where you don't have any moves possible. Exhausted. In the case of a checkmate in chess, or in the case of NIM, where all the heaps are empty, that's a leaf node because nobody can move. Now, for the moment, I'm only interested in two-person games. There is some terminology I'm saying here. It's good to learn this. Zero-sum means, like in chess or shootout, or in particular shootout, is that if one person wins, the other person loses. Then if I win, you lose. You win, I lose. So this is called zero-sum. And perfect information means there is no chance of that. I'm not talking about something like the shootout. I'm only talking about something like chess or and everybody can see what's going on. There's no hidden. It's not like cards where you're given a deal where I don't know what your card is. No, in chess you see everything that's there. And so also in yeah. Somebody has raised a hand if you want to ask a question or we'll move on. Now, what are the moves? As I said, it's some finite set and common to both players. And such games are usually called bipartisan games. Bipartisan games, basically, the same set of moves are available to both players. Okay? Again, don't worry about it. This, I think, I'm not going to do. These definitions are not important. Yeah, let's not worry about this. I think we don't have time for that. Yeah. So, and then you have outcomes. That's simple. For now, we'll confine our attention to finite games. By the way, all this lifts to infinite games very nicely. I'm not talking about that, but that's a very interesting one. So, and then every leaf node, basically wherever the game ends, right? You have a tree, you look at what are all the leaf nodes, and you can simply label it 1 or 2 to say who's winning. The play reaches that, right? Because a play is a path from the initial position to a leaf, and then you say who's winning at that point, and that is just a equation. And by let's not worry about it. And this is the kind of game that I have taken a game where player 1 moves from the player A. It's called. There are 2 possibilities: picks large or small, and then B's turn to pick large or small. And now this is interesting. Now these typically in games, these are called payoffs. What we are saying is that if the player reaches this position, player A gets, let's say, some 2 units, and the first player gets 2 units, the second player gets 2. Here it's -1, -1, -1, -1, 1, 1. Now, what does zero-sum mean? It means that you don't have payoff or outcomes like this. It's only -1, 1. That's possible. That's it. -1 means that person loses. 1 means that person wins. So that the sum of the payoffs is always 0. Right? So, but in general, you can have any kind of arbitrary. You can think of it as money that you win. Now, and then you can reason with such games. Now, my point is, if you look at chess, right, it's not, the branching is not 2, because at any point of time, you're going to have something like 16 moves available. Right? And a lot more, not 16. I mean, 16, points you can move. And, but the point is that the moment the queen comes out, right, the set of places that the queen can go to, right? The queen can, jump to lots of places. The bishop can move very far. The rook can move very far. So, but then it's still finite. It's finitely branching, right? And in each path, you know that the position cannot repeat more than 3 times. So it's a finite tree. So it's not a simple tree like this, but it's a huge tree, humongous tree with a finite tree. I hope this is clear. And there are some remarks. I'm not going to look at them. I think the host will tell you if there is anything. So the notion of strategy now I can formalize. This is the important point that I'm not going to read out this for you. Time either. Basically, a strategy is basically what I just said. It's a map from the player's nodes. If you look at all the adjacent domains possible, it picks one. That's what it is. That's the notion of a strategy. It's just written formally on the slide. And then, like I said, the moment you fix a pair of strategies, one for each player, now that gives a unique path in the game, and that gives a valid play if you actually end with a leaf. And now each play is either winning or losing for some player, or you get a payoff. And so this is what is called the strategy profile, and it gives a unique game model. And then formal definition of a winning strategy. Sigma for player I is a winning strategy if for every strategy tau of the opponent, the unique play resulting from it is actually winning for player I. So no matter what strategy is adopted by the other player, moving according to the strategy sigma guarantees a win for player I. And now we can formalize what it means to analyze a game. A win-lose game is said to be determined if starting in any game position, one of the players has a winning strategy. And this is why I asked, is chess determined? Now, typically a computer scientist is not interested in just saying there exists a winning strategy for one of them. I'd like to know which player wins, and then can I compute the winning strategy? Yeah, if it exists. And here is the and the answer to that is very simple. And I'm very sorry for the people who voted no. In 1913, Zermelo proved a theorem where he said in any finite extensive form game of perfect information, in fact, you can compute whether player I can win or not, whether a winning strategy exists. And let me just, it's fairly simple. Let's go back to this. No, I'm going to stop share. And just a minute. It's fairly simple. So maybe I'll do it. Okay. So your tree looks like this, right? Now, if you go all the way to the leaf nodes, let's say it's player one's turn. And this is there are these three possibilities for player one here. And these are all leaves. I'm very bad at this, as you can see. Okay. So if play ends here, player one wins, player two wins here, and player one's here. Now, what should player one do at this point? Player one would be stupid to make this move. So player one has a move that will lead to a win for player one. So obviously player one is going to win this node. If ever player reaches this node, player one wins. Is this clear? On the other hand, if it's player one's turn to move, right? And all the moves lead to win for player two. Now, whatever strategy player one employs is completely useless, right? Because whatever move player one makes, it's going to result in a win for player two. That's it. So I can go over the leaf nodes. Since I'm told in all the leaf nodes who is winning, I can go one level up and figure out who's winning. Now, if you are in any, so at any point of time when I'm considering this node, let's say this is the turn for player two. By induction, I would have analyzed this entire tree and labeled this as 1, this is 2, this is 1, etc. And I can put it up. I can keep going all the way And this is called backward induction. And by backward induction, I can determine whether, when I hit the root, who has a win, who's win. And in fact, each time I can decorate a particular path, right? And therefore, I will even be able to go from leaf to root and actually say, this is in fact the winning strategy for that particular play. And that's it. This is an extremely simple proof that was given by Zermelo to show you that, in 1913, Zermelo showed that, backward induction applies. And, chess is a game which is not a win-lose game because there is also a draw involved. So instead of winning strategies, you can define non-losing strategies. What's a non-losing strategy? That if I'm employing that strategy, I'm guaranteed not to lose, right? So that's it. And actually, you can compute in linear time, but linear in the size of the tree, which is humongous. You can compute who has a winning strategy. That's it. Huh? So chess must have a non-losing strategy at least. Now, unfortunately, the size of the chess tree is so big that linear in the size of the chess tree means nothing. Even with the super duper technology, you can try to see how long it will take, and it's not fine. Okay.
Sir?
Yeah.
Sir, I just searched. There can be actually around 69 trillion of chess games. So to operate all of them and to make a winning strategy out of them, even if you do 1 game per minute, it will take you like 10 lifetimes. So it's not almost possible.
Yeah. I mean, there are also more sophisticated calculations, but the point is that this is. But still, the theorem is valuable. It says that if you've got a finite game of perfect information, I mean, it's a finite tree. I can apply this argument in principle. Yeah. Now, there is a big difference between in principle and practice. But if you're interested in mathematics, never look down on in principle answers, because even in principle answers are not always available, right? So first you must understand that. Yeah. So I'm sorry, running out of time, I think. Let me just quickly show you how you do the other kind of games, and then we can stop. Okay. Yeah. Now, backward induction completely solves finite extensive games. Might as well go home. But life is not so simple. As I said, you already pointed out that it's not. Now, there is also games where, if you look at this game, it's just a tree drawn sideways. Here, it's player 2's turn to move, right? And what will player 2 do if it gets to this point, right? Player 2 is going to move to the right? Because you get better. So you might as well say that player 2 is going to win, right? Player 2 is going to win. And here I have not made it a win-lose game. I have actually put payoffs. But, the point is that player 2 is going to win here. And since player 1 knows that if play gets here, 2 will win, player 1 is not going to let that happen. Player 1 will go down here. So that means player 1 will win. So 2 knows that if it ever comes here, 1 is going to win. So player 2 is going to go down here, because here 2 gets 2 and gets 1. So it's clear that 2 will win this node. And then if you come here, you see that, if you go here, 2 is going to win. So player 1 is guaranteed a 1 at least here. So therefore, backward induction will tell you that player 1 right in the beginning will go down and then game. So even though they had actually moved right, both of them would get 3 units. Backward induction will tell you that you will go here. So this is not how people play games. Okay. So even if with the in-principle solution, there is a lot to learn. But all this doesn't say anything about a shootout game, because we have now uncertainties. how do you formalize these games? And one way of doing that, yeah, I can try to think of it as a matrix, right? Let's say the rows represent the striker and the columns represent the goalkeeper. What does that mean? The striker has the option of shooting to the left, shooting to the center, or shooting to the right. The goalkeeper has the option of expecting it to come to the left, expecting it to come to the center, expecting it to come to the right. Now, I invite you to fill in this matrix. That is, if the goalkeeper, and remember this is, if the striker, this is Messi, right, is shooting to the left, and let's say it's Buffon, a really good goalkeeper, who's expecting it to come to the left, what do you think will happen? If the striker shoots to the left, and no, don't answer now, go and fill it at home. I'm saying fill by this 3x3 matrix to get a feel for. So you must fill in each of these entries with a pair. The pair is the outcome for the left. When I write AB out there, A is the outcome for the striker, B is the outcome for the goalkeeper. The moment you fill in this, then an analysis begins, right? So you can say that, you do it. What we can start reasoning is that, of course, I'm not all, definitely not deterministically going to shoot to the left or right. Whatever, what I will do is with 30% probability, I'll shoot towards the left. 20% probability, maybe I have analyzed many games of Buffon on video, right? So 30% probability I will shoot towards the left, 50% to the middle, and 20% to the right. And, the goalkeeper takes a stance saying, with half probability I will move to the left, 30% probability to the left, 20%. Right? Now, this mixing of probabilities actually gives you an answer. And that's the main thing that I want to say. This is the theory initiated by John von Neumann in 1928 and given a big boost by John Nash in 1950. Nash's theorem says essentially for any such matrix form game, a solution exists as long as you allow probabilistic strategies. Right? And now, how do you implement probabilistic strategies when you hit or when you anticipate? There's some checker involved, but you can actually do very sensible answer. I'm not going to go down this. There is a beautiful mathematical theory down this. This is the solution called Nash equilibrium. And I'm going to stop here. There is a lot of beautiful combinatorial analysis. By the way, for the NIM games, it actually leads to a very nice algebraic structure. It's a structure, yeah. Oh, sorry, this just goes on. It forms an abelian group. Not only that, what it forms is every element has an inverse, with each element has its own inverse. So for those who know a little bit of algebra, it's a beautiful structure. So NIM games can be analyzed that way. So my point is, games can be studied mathematically. You can do combinatorial game theory, or you can do algebraic studies, or if you go into matrix forms, you have important applications in economics, political science, computer science, biology, a whole lot. There are infinite games that directly lead to set theory, topology, and machine. So this is an extremely rich field to study, but much more importantly, games are fun. Good reason to study. Thank you.
Hello.
Yeah. If anyone has doubts, then they can ask now.
There were lots of comments and chat that I missed, but somebody can. Yeah, so by the way, I think there is a comment on chat and that's important. In the shootout game, there are no winning strategies. It's not a win because what you get are different payoffs. And that payoff, you can make it even real numbers, it can be as complicated as you like, because it depends on what you want to do. Right? But think of it as something very simple, as at least in the shootout game, right? Like I said, if it's Messi who's shooting, right? And if it's Buffon, right? It's a real tussle. I mean, so that's where you can put in your numbers to match your opponents, right? And, are you going to, and for instance, if Messi is shooting to the left and Buffon is expecting it to come to the middle, for sure it's a goal for Messi. There's no question about it, right? So this is the kind of thing you can put in your. But my point is, the moment you put in appropriate numbers, whatever you think, and of course in the modeling you can have difference of opinion. It will dictate the probabilities for you. You can compute the probabilities and find out which mix of probabilities give an equilibrium. Okay, I've not told you how to do that. That's an interesting thing, but just to assure you that you can. Of course, there's a lot more math involved, but simple and fun. Somebody has asked for my email. I will give my email on the.
Sir, can you also please share the PPT?
Yeah, I'll send the PDF to Desolate. And any comments otherwise? And what is the answer to the chess problem? That is the question. No. The point is, yes, according to Zermelo's theorem, for chess, there exists a non-losing strategy for one of the two players. That's for sure. The question is, who? Whether it's for white or black or which, we have no idea. Mainly because, so there is no exact answer to it. It's a matter of whatever technology that we understand. But in principle, yes, and who knows?
Sir, but is it necessary that a non-losing strategy is a winning strategy? There can be stalemates, there can be draws.
No, of course not. So it's only a strategy to draw. Yeah. I mean, it can be a strategy to draw. So that reminds me of something that somebody else said earlier. Somebody was asking me about playing several games, right? That's an interesting question. Now, to answer that, let me ask you back a question. Do you know of any strategy for you right, to play against Viswanathan Anand? Right? How do you want, you want a good strategy to play against Viswanathan?
Who is the question for?
For you, whoever is talking to me. I'm not asking for existence of strategy. I'm asking what is your strategy to play against Viswanathan or Larsen. Okay, here is what I would do. Okay, I want to play against Anand. I challenge Larsen to a game, right? So, and I play simultaneously 2 games, one against Larsen and one against Anand. Yeah, is that clear? And now I play white in one and I play black in another. Let's say that I play white in the game against Larsen and black against Anand. Black against Anand is deadly. Yeah. Okay. So what I do is, so now remember that I play black against Anand, so Anand starts. He makes a move. I'm playing white against Larsen, so I play that move to Larsen. Larsen will do something in response as black. Now that I respond to Anand. So all I am doing is doing nothing but convey Anand's moves to Larsen and Larsen's response to Anand. They'll be killing each other, right? Among them, something will happen. That's my strategy. Now, this is called a copycat strategy, and it's a beautiful strategy. Right? Now, in parallel games, all sorts of things are possible. Right? what you can use strategies from one game and use in another, especially in bipartisan games where you can do a lot. So, in fact, some of my own research in this area is involved in games in parallel, working in many games in parallel, strategizing in multiple games, and so on. It gets much more complicated, but the mathematical theory is the same. There's no deep thing, but the algebraic structure changes a lot because just quickly for those who care about, as a sum operation, you are adding games to make a game. Now that addition is what I said forms an abelian. Right? Now, when you have several games going on in parallel, what you are talking about is a new algebraic structure. And that's of great interest. And there are a lot of open problems on this. Unfortunately, I can't even mention the open problems. It's much more complicated. But suffice it to say that there are many operators you can think of, like exactly this addition. The notion of addition, that is a kind of a multiplication. Playing many games, you can think of it as a kind of multiplication. So you move from group structures to some kind of rings. There are some nice further algebraic structures from that. We don't know too much about many of them. And as I said, theoretical computer science has brought up a lot of more and more interesting mathematical questions. Anything else?
Sir, there have been a few requests asking if you could suggest any books, documentaries, or movies where they can read more about your lecture today, like about games.
Oh yeah, I should have prepared for this because the internet is full of, there is like lots and lots and lots of stuff on combinatorial games. I don't remember it offhand right now. I'll just mention a name on chat. That is Eric Demain of MIT. Yeah.
So
one moment. So Eric Demain's, if you just, I'm sure Google will. MIT. So he runs a page of on combinatorial games. He issues challenges. Lots of game challenges are there. There's solution. A whole community of people posting there. You'll be able to see. But I'll certainly, if you write to me, I can send you some links. Books that are also there. On books, there is a classic book, Winning Ways for Your Mathematical Plays. That's what it's called, by Guy Conway, and yeah. So that's in 2 volumes, probably the best source for almost all the things that I said, at least combinatorial.
Sir, I have a
other
doubt.
matrix game theory, as I said again, it's full of stuff. There is also Nash's, there is a film, A Beautiful Mind, which gives you an introduction to Nash. Yeah.
Sir, I have a doubt.
Yeah, please.
So the non-losing strategies would include draws, now?
Yeah, of course. Yeah. So non-losing strategy means what? If I play that strategy, no matter what the opponent does, I'm guaranteed not to lose. That means I might win, I might lose. Or
Hello, sir.
yeah.
So you mentioned the example of Magnus Carlsen and Vishwanathan Anand to copy the moves what you play with Magnus Carlsen, but both of the strategies might be different, right? Both of them don't play in the same method.
Of course. They are playing very, very different strategies. But it doesn't matter. Finally, what I am playing is a composite strategy, right? I am playing a definite, and what are the properties of that strategy? That's what I said is something interesting.
But only one game against both of them win against Vishwanathan Anand so easily, right?
Yeah. Of course, remember Anand can lose to Carlsen, or Carlsen can lose to Ding Liren recently. So that's all possible. So, human players, right? So I'm just saying that it gives me a very good strategy to play against, I can challenge a grandmaster, provided I can challenge another grandmaster and play complement.
Yes, sir.
And of course, they know this. So, yeah.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, I have not said anything about games of chance. By the way, all these techniques that I talked about, you can do a lot for chess and accessory, even for games like shootout, and card games are very, very difficult. Okay? So in fact, if you see computers playing chess, there are any number of computers that play chess. Computers play Go, which is a different thing. But computers playing bridge, that's much harder. So in fact, one of the great challenges for game playing programs is bridge. So, those are team games are in general harder, but there is also a lot of epistemic attitudes that are involved, beliefs that are involved, and obviously, yeah. So,
sir, I had one more doubt.
So, games of chance in general. So, I'm saying even if there are only 52 cards, right? There are only so many deals possible. Still, the moment imperfect information comes, right? What is imperfect information? It means I don't know the moves, right? I don't know the deal. The moment some partial information comes, everything is up in there. And there's a lot of brain. In fact, again, this is something that I've done some work in as well. So my students have done work. And that's an area full of lots of negative results, saying this can be done, that can be done, kind of thing. But, coming up with possibilities is a great challenge. Yeah, sorry. Someone had some question.
Sir, my doubt was that when players like any chess players play against computers, that time do they use 100% winning strategy because they might lose also?
No. So I think somebody mentioned on chat about heuristics, and they're all heuristics. Heuristics are basically strategies that are not winning strategies. I mean, you don't know, right? So heuristics are simply strategies where you know some properties of the strategy. They are functions, right? They are maps. So you know certain properties of the functions. And yeah, that's all. But they, and this is how you gain experience, right? I mean, all players do that. Over playing many, many games, you know that certain broad position, certain particular moves actually help.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir.
So you can summarize positions. And that's all. Yeah.
Hello, sir. Hello, sir. You gave the example of playing chess or parallelly, right? Yeah. So, are you using your strategy while when there is the time to take your move, or you're using the strategy of the other player with whom you're playing?
The particular strategy that I talked about is what in fact, it's a heuristic. The heuristic is copycat. The copycat heuristic is that I simply copy X's strategy when I play against Y. Right? I'm playing simultaneously to X as well as Y. And whatever X uses against me is what I'm using against Y. And whatever Y is using against me, I use against Y. That's it. So in some sense, I'm doing a mindless job.
So you're not using your strategy in the game, right?
Nothing at all. But yeah, I mean, mine is, these are just words, right? I mean,
okay, thank you, sir.
Yeah, any questions, comments? Okay, thank you all. Thanks very much. And I'll send the PDFs and the links also. Anybody who writes to me.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. Wonderful talk on winning strategies and
Sir,
games.
where shall we get the PDF?
We will send you the PDF. So, like, we will send you by mail, or we will upload it somewhere. We will send you the PDFs.
Sir.
Yes, you may ask your question. Yeah.
Sir, if any game has probabilities involved, then does it mean that it can never have a winning strategy?
No, the way that, you can only, then you're talking about the probability of winning, right? Of course, if you can show that the probability of winning is 1, that's a winning strategy. But, the whole point
So
is
even if it is a finite game, it won't have a winning strategy, which defies the theorem that you said.
No. Theorem says there exists a winning strategy. Right? But the point is you may not know what it is. Right? And, what stops you from playing probabilistically in chess? Right? I think stops you from playing probabilistically in chess and arguing that certain kind of defense, certain kind of attack, I play with mixing them, proper probability, right? In the first, and people do play like that, huh? Because there are certain moves you make mainly to see how the other person plays, not to, to get something. Tennis, many players, play some shots just to get a feel for how the other person responds. Right? You don't care about losing that particular game. Right? You want to win the set. So there are a lot of such strategies that people use, and they can be formalized as probabilistic strategies. And they will all give you probabilities of winning. That has nothing to do with the original theorem. The thing is, if the game itself has chance moves, right? Meaning that you roll a dice, right? And depending on the outcome of the dice, you move. That's a different story. In that case, the kind of analysis that I was doing, backward induction, right, simply doesn't work. What you will get is that at every node, you will get a probability distribution. You will get a probability distribution of who, you won't get, player 1 wins this node or 2. Node, you will say 30% probability player 1 wins, 70% player 2, etc., etc. When you compute up, you will get a probability. All this can be done with a little bit of time. I just want to give some idea.
Sir, I have a doubt.
Yeah.
Sir, I have a doubt.
Yes, please.
So does the theory state that all the games have a winning strategy, like including chess?
Yeah. Once again, if it's a finite game, right? If it's a finite game, and it has only no chance moves. Every move is determined. Right? It's deterministic and perfect information. No hidden moves, no hidden deals, everything. The theorem is very clear that one of the players has, and if it's a win-lose game, right, then there are only 2 possible outcomes. Then yes, the theorem very clearly says that any such game, there is a winning strategy. But remember, that's an in-principle statement. Yeah.
So, but in the chess, if I play the first, but my strategy, like being a black, my strategy would be somewhat dependent on what the white plays. So the strategy for my strategy might change. The winning strategy might change.
Yeah. So, you should look at the definition. The definition, my definition of a strategy was, it's a map from all possible situations to moves, right? So what you are talking about is an adaptive strategy. I mean, that function tells you for all possible situations, right? Whereas you are trying to grow the strategy. You want to say, and that's how human beings play, right? Initially, this is what I do. Depending on what you do, this is what I do, etc., etc. That is what a game theorist would call an adaptive strategy. Right? Now, again, some of the kind of research that some of my former students were doing is precisely about not game composition, but strategy composition. No, let's not think of one possible strategy for the entire set of decisions, right? You have some partial strategies for different situations, and then you combine them. And then you combine them, grow. And in fact, like you said, what happens if I switch strategies? I come to the play, I start playing with sigma, and halfway through I switch to some strategy sigma prime. Right? Algebraically, even that is an operator. Right? It's a binary operation. Now, if you give me a 1 semester course, we can go over lots of such stuff. Right? And if you give me 1 year, plenty, you can start proving the theorems yourself. Yeah. So you just need a bit of patience and then you will see how. Okay, then.
Hello, sir.
Yeah, please.
Sir, I came across this book called Mathematical Carnival by Martin Gardner. So, is it a good book to read for?
Book. Not necessarily for game theory. I mean, I would say anything by Martin Gardner is wonderful. Mathematical Carnival is absolutely lovely. It's got lots of beautiful puzzles, and it can keep you busy for a very, very long time. So yes, not necessarily just for game.
Okay, so are there any prerequisites? Because I was going through the first chapter and I came across one of the puzzles. So are there any prerequisites that I should be knowing before I go through this book, or is it fine to start off?
No. I mean, see, there are no prerequisites for puzzles at all. That's the whole point of puzzles, right?
Okay.
And he wrote it for Scientific American all his life. He had a column.
Okay.
And if you don't know Martin Gardner, please look at everything he did. And several of his puzzles actually led to new research. It led to new mathematics, new physics, many interesting things.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
I think 2 years ago we had the Martin Gardner centenary.
So if no one has any other doubts, then we will conclude the meeting. If you have any other doubts, then you can send us at our email tesla.cmi@gmail.com and we will take it forward. So once again, thank you, Professor, for your wonderful talk on showing us how the wonderful strategies about theories and winning strategies for a game if it exists, and showing that if it is can be decided whether a game exists or not. And so we will meet again on 14th October, Wednesday, at the same time at 4:30 for our next lecture by Professor B. Suri from ISI Bangalore on chat time SAM, where he will show about numbers and their applications in other many places. Thank you all.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. Bye,
Thank you,
sir.
sir.
Thank you, sir. Bye, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.